All right, I need you to tell me if this is something that you do too, or it's just me. Imagine your phone buzzes, because I don't know about y'all, but I couldn't even tell you what sound my phone makes because the sound is never on. And you see it's a message from TPT and you're like, oh, how exciting. Someone bought something. But instead of buying my $3 lesson pack, it's not someone buying something. Instead, it's a question from a buyer. And immediately my whole body fills with dread. Just me? Or do you do that too? I hope it's not just me. When buyers have questions or reviews or any of those kind of things, it can be terrifying because you never know if it's gonna be someone who's like, this is amazing, I love it. Or if it's gonna be an innocent question, or if it's gonna be something that's maybe not so nice. We have all had all of those things, and if you haven't had all of those things yet, you will one day. So just give it a few, months or years, and you'll get there, and you'll get your share of nasty, not great messages as well. So in this video, we're going to talk through different common buyer complaints and kind of the different categories that they can fall under. So there's 3 different categories that your buyer complaints or questions or whatever can fall under, and those are things you need to listen to, things you should listen to but you don't need to listen to right now, and things that you can completely ignore. So we're gonna go through, some of these are things that I have put on the list from personal experience, some are things that y'all have suggested from Instagram, and if you are feeling overwhelmed from buyer requests or buyer questions or things like that, then I just really want to help put your mind at ease and hopefully help you chill out a little bit, because you don't have to listen to every single thing that the buyers say. Okay, I know the customer is always right, but sometimes they're not right. I'm just saying. Okay, let's do this. A little better. We have actual sunlight today, and so I'm no longer used to what real sunlight looks like on the camera. Okay, so before we get into the 3 different categories of where the buyer complaints fall into and what you need to know, the first thing I want you to remember is that when you are on TPT, you are a professional. They may not remember that, but you are a professional. This is a business, and that means that you need to make sure that no matter what the buyer says, no matter what question is left, no matter what review is left, you have to be really, really, really respectful. You have to do what you need to do because you're a professional business. Okay, so no matter what happens, make sure that you remember that you need to make sure that your composure is really good and you need to be kind. As much as we can help the buyers, I like to help the buyers. Anytime that you have a, buyer that you can help and kind of go that extra mile for, it will really help those buyers to then fall in love with your store and even maybe you. Easy example, today my husband had an eye doctor appointment and he literally texted me in the middle of the day and was like, I love LensCrafters. And I was like, any particular reason? And he sent me this whole paragraph of how he was gonna buy these glasses, and then the lady did all this stuff and just made it so much better. And so long story short, he, we are always gonna be LensCrafter people, because every time we go to the LensCrafters here in Savannah, they are always super nice, super helpful, and they always go the extra mile. And you want to have that kind of customer service because that's what keeps people coming back. However, not all requests are made equal, and not everything needs to be addressed in a way that allows, your whole day to be derailed. For example, if you, and we'll get to this later, but just because someone says something doesn't mean you have to immediately do it. I get requests a lot. I got one just the other day. Someone wanted me to completely remake a product and send it to them, and I was like, frankly, no. I didn't say it that way, but when it came down to it, that was the answer. Because if I spend all my time trying to remake things in my products that I didn't promise, that I didn't, whatever, because somebody wants it, I would never do the things that are actually going to move my business forward. I wouldn't have time to make content, and I wouldn't have time to make new products or update old products because I'd be spending all my time fulfilling requests, and that's not what we're here for. Okay, you have very limited time, and so we don't want to spend all our time responding to this, that, or the other. So be professional, go the extra mile if you can, but not all requests are made equal, and that's how we're going to get into this. So we have 3 different levels of buyer complaints. Level number 1 is things that you do need to listen to, and some of them pretty urgently. So first of all, if there is a typo in your store or in your product, you definitely need to make sure if there's a typo or a mistake that it is fixed as soon as possible. If I have, and y'all know I'm like the queen of typos, like I just can't do it. My mom was scared I was not gonna be able to spell, and it's not, I don't think it's that I can't spell, it's that my brain goes too fast. And so I get all excited and I like work too fast, and then sometimes I miss things. And so sometimes I have typos or mistakes. If someone notices that, you need to fix it ASAP. So like that day or the next day, like as soon as you possibly can, because you don't want them to have that mistake, and you don't want to, you know, just leave it there for all these people to have the mistaken one. You want to make sure that you are quickly fixing those products. So if you have a typo or mistake in your product, you need to fix that ASAP. That is something we are definitely listening to. That is a, you know, review or a question that needs to be addressed. Also, kind of on the same, you know, playing field, if there is something that you promised in your description or in your preview and you did not deliver on it in the product, that is something you need to fix. If I had said, you know, this instruments of the orchestra lesson includes every instrument in the woodwind family, including the oboe, and the oboe was not in the product, that's something that I promised that I did not deliver, and I need to address, because that is on me. We'll talk about the flip side of that later. But if there is something you said in your description that your product included, or said in your title or your thumbnails or your previews or your cover or whatever, if you said it was going to be in there and it is not in there, you need to make sure that you fix it. Sometimes, you know, mistakes happen. This is really embarrassing, but I have definitely uploaded the wrong file into my products before. I don't really want to talk about it, but that's the thing that has definitely happened in my life, and for real. And so thanks to someone's question being like, hey, that's not right, I was able to fix it, and those products can continue to sell. If I didn't know, you know, that's the time you want them to say something, because otherwise you're just gonna sit there with like the whole wrong product, and people are gonna be like, what the heck is this? I have no idea. So if you promised something and you didn't deliver on it, you need to make sure you fix that ASAP. That is something we are listening to. And the last one that you may want to listen to is people who seem confused. Now, just because someone's a teacher does not mean that they're very bright. I'm just saying. So sometimes it's not your fault. Sometimes people are like confused, and that has nothing to do with you. But sometimes people are confused, and it's because you were not clear enough about the product. So whether that's that they don't understand the format, they don't understand how it works, if it's a game, they don't know how the game is played, you know, like those kind of things. If they're confused about something, you want to make sure that you address that. So if there's confusion in the comments, in the questions, in the, you know, reviews, then you want to go to your description, and you want to make sure that you are explaining things fully. Fun example, back in 2020, this was great. Back in 2020, when the whole world shut down, TBT did this super fun thing where they took any product that was like a single PDF, so not a zip file, but if it was a single PDF, they said it could be used with their digital resource, which at the time was called easel. I've been told I say that weird, apologies. So I have a lot of games in my store that are like printable games, and I had a lot of people asking questions, being like, yo, how do I use this printable card game digitally? That's confusing. Now, that wasn't technically on me, but it was something I needed to address. So in all of my descriptions, I started putting giant letters that said like, this is a printable product. So that's, you know, one example of something that could be confusing. Another example is actually I sell on Etsy, and Etsy does a super fun thing. I know, so many fun things that we can't control. This is why I tell you, you don't control these platforms. Super fun. Etsy does this really great thing where they're like, you buy a digital product, but they won't send you the digital product until they can verify your payment. And sometimes that takes a few hours. So I get messages from people who are like, I don't have my whatever. And I'm like, literally not my fault. But they're still upset. So in all of my Etsy descriptions, in giant letters, it says, you know, this is a digital product, nothing's sent to you. And then it also says, if you're looking for your, you know, product, like, this is where you should look for to find the digital product. It may take a while, so be patient. I still get messages of people who cannot figure out how to download things on Etsy. I don't really understand why, because I've downloaded things on Etsy and it's very simple. But alas, here we are. So anything that you can clarify is helpful. I've also had people who didn't understand how to play a game, or who, you know, just didn't fully understand something. So if there is confusion, someone is unsure about your product, then take that complaint and go change your description so that people understand it, or add a preview, or add a video preview, add those things to make it make more sense. We want to make it make sense so that people can purchase it. Before we go to the next category, I want to do a brief little interlude on zip files. So if you are posting onto TBT, unfortunately we can only upload one file per resource. TBT, if you're listening, I would love it if we could do more than one file per resource. It would be super helpful. Etsy lets you do it. Hint, hint. But it is super annoying because people don't all know how to work zip files. My dogs are barking. Please hold. Anyway, so zip files, you cannot upload more than one file to a TBT product. So if you need to upload more than one file, you typically will zip it. So that's like compressing it. So you like right click and then you click either zip or compress depending on your situation. Some people do not understand how to open zip files. I don't really get what the problem is, because literally you just like double click it. But sometimes it's a problem. Specifically, sometimes there's like a button you have to click that says extract all. And if you don't click that button, then you can't get the files. So I have had so many messages from people who could not figure out how to open zip files. So when I have a zip file that I post on TBT, again, in the description, I have a whole paragraph of, this is a zip file. Please make sure you have the software to open a zip file. Here's how you open the zip file. Make sure you hit this. If you have problems, here's a link to the TBT help page that tells you how to open zip files. And it's one of those things that, like, it shouldn't be that difficult, but for some reason it is. And so because I've gotten that complaint, I have added in that like disclaimer, and I've added in extra things. I have a saved thing, little tip, common questions. I have saved things in my notes section. So when I get that question, I go to notes in my phone and I search zip, and it pops up with my whole little response about the zip files, and then I just copy and paste it into the question. So zip files are a super fun thing, super fun. Yeah, so we have things we are listening to, things that you might want to listen to, but you don't necessarily have to listen to it right now, is going to be our next category. So really and truly, two things. One is, can I have an alternate version? I don't know if y'all get these two, but I'll have people who message me and are like, oh, can I have this, but I want it this way. I want it in a PowerPoint instead of in a PDF. I want it editable instead of non-editable. I want it on Google Sites. I want it on this. I want it on that. It is a little bit absurd to me, because I would never message someone and be like, hey, I want this, but I want it to be different. It's weird, right? Teachers pay teachers is exactly what it sounds like. Teachers paying teachers. So that means that typically the sellers are teachers, right? The benefit of this is that we have the small business feel, and people can, you know, purchase from us and all that. But the downside to that is that people often know that it's a real person on the other end, and so they'll take advantage of that, and they'll ask for alternate things, and they'll want different versions, and they'll want this, that, and the other. And if you did not promise that it was something that was included, you do not need to provide an alternate version. You do not have to provide an alternate version. You do not need to send things to people that are different. I had someone the other day, they were like, hey, I want to buy this, but I need the lyrics to be different. Can you change the lyrics? I was like, no, I cannot change the lyrics to a folk song that I did not write because it's hundreds of years old. I mean, like, that's just not how it works. You can put a text box over it and you can do whatever you want with it, but like, I'm not changing it. Weird, okay? So things like that are things that you might want to listen to. Maybe not changing the lyrics to songs that you didn't write, but things that are reasonable. So, hey, can I have an editable version? Hey, I would love to have a printable version of this. Hey, I would love to have slides to go along with that. Those are all things that are great ideas that you might want to include, but you don't have to drop everything and do it today. If you get questions like this, like, hey, can I have this? Hey, can I have that? If you think it is a good idea, you want to continue, then my wordage would be, hi, thank you so much for the suggestion. That sounds like a great idea. Unfortunately, I already have quite a few projects lined up right now, so I'm not able to do this right now, but I would love to do that in the future. If you do go ahead and purchase, you can get the updated version if and when it's available. So that would be a good, you know, professional response. If you're not gonna do it, then you might say something along the lines of, hi, thank you so much for the suggestion. Unfortunately, I have a lot of projects currently going on, so I'm not able to do that right now, but maybe I'll do it in the future. It's still pretty open-ended, but it's a very professional way to just be like, don't count on it. And so that way people know that, you know, you know, they feel heard, which is the important part, but you don't have to drop everything to go and do it right now, because we're not doing that. Does that bother anyone else when people send that? Like, it's really annoying to me, especially when they go ahead and are like, here's my email you can send it to. I'm like, excuse you? Excuse you? No. Like, that is not how this works. No, 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 no. Okay, so things you might want to listen to are, if something is a good idea, adding an alternate version, those kind of things, listen to, but you don't have to drop everything to listen to them right now. The next set is things you really don't need to bother with. Answer respectfully and don't give it another thought. So these kind of things are things like, for example, obnoxious requests. Hey, can you change the lyrics to this song? No, I cannot. Thanks for asking. So that would be something that, like, no, I'm not gonna do. It's usually those. Another one that I get sometimes is people who are really freaked out by the whole like Google Drive resources on TPT. So they'll be like, I want this product, but I'm not gonna do Google Drive because they want to access my Google Drive. I'm like, I promise they're not trying to like steal your information. They just need to make a copy. Like, that's literally all that needs to happen. But people don't get that, and it kind of scares them. And so Google Drive problems, people not willing to do Google Drive, is something I would put under this. When someone complains about that, I say, hey, you're welcome to make a free Google account on a different email and, you know, send it to yourself from there. But I am not going out of my way to remake a product or change a product because you're not willing to do Google Drive. Like, that's just, frankly, stupid. I know they say there's no stupid questions, but they are wrong. So obnoxious requests, Google Slides has its own little thing. And third, a lot of people said they get asked for editable versions, which if it's, here's the thing about adding an editable version. Sometimes it's useful. So for example, when I make my slides, I do make part of it editable because there are some things that people need. So for example, I teach music and people use different words for rhythms when they're teaching them to kids. So when I have like a quarter note, I call it ta. When I have eighth notes, I call it titi. Other people call them do and dude, and other people call them, I don't even know. A big one's 16th notes, I call it ticka ticka. Other people call it tiri tiri. People call it all sorts of things. Like, there's so many different ways that you can call a rhythm. So anytime that I'm doing something where I'm like, this is what this rhythm's called, I always make it editable because I want to do that. However, like, personally, I use things in my products that, first of all, a lot of times your clip art cannot be editable. Like, it has to be protected? Is that the word I'm looking for? It has to be flattened. That's the word I wanted. It has to be flattened, has to be protected so people can't steal it. You don't want people to be able to steal your work, so having everything editable also opens you up to that, being like people being able to steal your stuff. When it's editable, there's like a whole host of other problems, like you can't use your own fonts. I teach music, I have music fonts. I can't send you a music font because all the eighth notes show up like the letter D. So it's gonna be like QD, 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 and people are gonna be like, what the heck is this? So there are reasons that you wanna make it not editable, and those are valid. If someone's like, I need an editable version, you can be like, hey, sorry, it's not editable because I need to protect my product. And you can leave it at that. You do need to be respectful with obnoxious requests and things like that, but you don't have to drop everything to fix somebody else's problem. I hope that this was a helpful, insightful video. I am curious, and I would kind of like for you to leave the most obnoxious request or question that you have gotten in the comments. Feel free to obscure details because we don't want anyone to, you know, accidentally see their own question or comment. But yeah, now I'm really curious. So leave me like your most ridiculous ones down below, and we will all enjoy seeing those fun ones. And this isn't exactly what we're talking about. Reviews. I do have a whole video about reviews. Please do not complain about people giving you 4-star reviews. It's the way it's worded. That's it. Okay. Reviews are a whole separate subject. We're talking specifically comments today. Questions, comments. Yeah. If you're selling on TPT, make sure you hit that follow button or subscribe. What platform are we on? I don't know. Hit that down below so that you can join us next time, and because we talk all TPT things here. I'm going to close this out before the camera does it for me.